Thank you. I cannot really explain why, because that's the title they gave me, so that's that. But I'm here to talk with you about Vilnius city and the next generation of it. As the presenter told you, I'm the CEO of the Vilnius city. And we are having a lot of problems, but let's discuss firstly the mindset that's being now developed in the municipality and the municipality company group as such. We're thinking that we should act more of a private company-like people and try to develop an attitude that is head-on, facing problems and acknowledging them and trying to implement bold solutions in trying to fix them. Now, I'm not Gordon Gekko, but aspiring to be one might be not a good idea as well. But public greed is good, because public greed defines us as greedy for more solutions, more opportunities, and more public services, more public good, and more public infrastructure as such. And infrastructure is what we're here to talk about. According to the United Nations, this is the 4 key elements of city prosperity, meaning that the city has to be productive, it has to allow economic growth, and the infrastructure development needs to be smooth, it needs to be developed, and it needs to be provided in time for the increasing needs. Also, it needs to be environmentally sustainable and preserve the environment as such, so the people can live there happily and in a hassle-free way. Governments and legislation is something that is wrapping this up, and also effective solutions, efficient policies and laws that are abided, the rule of law that is respected is crucial for increasing the prosperity. So in short, we need more people doing more things, more people being productive, being better in better education system, and more smart people creating more smarter products and doing better investments, living better lives, and using a reasonable and valid infrastructure, which is devised by the city, and with private partners as such. We are implementing good governance practices. We're implementing independent boards that are running the city utility companies, and this is something that has been done for the past term of the current mayor, and is continuing to be do as such. And this is something that is really developing good results. Most of our companies are now profitable. The returns on their equities are way better than before, and we see a better output on the results of the companies that of the services they produce, and we're happy that we can provide them for the city citizens. However, the last 30 years of Vilnius was and is the condition is now quite terrible. We don't have any blueprints. We have implemented most of the things that has been planned during the Soviet era, considering the western and southern turnpikes, and all major infrastructure was planned before. We're now just implementing it, and new developments are yet to come and yet to be planned. We are in a dead end in the education system, because all of the city's schools and kindergartens were developed before and now are in a very bad shape. We have used to good conditions at home and in the office, but the public infrastructure is badly deteriorating. The housing of the city is getting older every day, and Most of the people have a vision that their houses are permanent and will last forever, but that's not the case. Currently, about 6,000 apartment buildings are yet to be outdated and will need to be demolished. We don't have any transportation system that is that can sustain a growth of the city that will reach 1 million of inhabitants, and the city is growing, so we have more automobilization, more cars, and more traffic jams, and that is the problems that we're facing. However, we do acknowledge these problems, and we're just getting started because we are keen on to be transparent, to be open to new ideas. We have been considered the European capital of open data just this year, and we have millennials in command, which is good because the mayor, which is 44 years old, is the oldest of us, and this is an attitude that is great because we do now realize that it's up to us, not some older generation that will take care of the things that that we need to do by our own. And we have a Vilnius City Group. It's a company group that is we consider as a holding. It has 30,000 employees in total, and we work closely together to service the citizens every day. We don't appreciate the companies working in silos and not communicating with one another. And these things are done by various different systems and newly developed project management system, which encompasses all of the city's projects that are done in all of the companies. The municipality administration as such was just reorganized, and we flattened the hierarchical system of the organization, and now we're implementing service delivery and project management culture, which is a hard transition, but there is basically no other way, because we cannot increase the apparatus in terms of employee size, and looks like we are not getting much better new talent anytime soon, so we need to educate the ones we have, and we're kindly doing so, and it's coming therefore great. So Vilnius is growing in any relevant dimension when it comes to KPIs of a city. The main KPI, I think, is the citizen increase, because if you're doing well, if you're doing good, then people are coming to live and work in your city. If you're doing not so well, you have a decrease. So the population of Vilnius has been increasing in let's say, average or moderate pace, but it still is on the plus side. We can do much more. We're aspiring to be to reach a citizen limit of 1 million by the year 2050. That's an ambitious goal, but it could really happen. We also have an increase of students. That is also good because we have the younger population coming here and probably staying here and living in Vilnius. And as you can see, it also consists of all the, we have 1/5 of all the students of Lithuania in Vilnius. So it's a huge challenge when you cannot influence the education system overall and have 1/5 of the clients that you need to support and to service. Also, the amount of housing has grown over the years. It's mainly the growth of the private sector, but we are really looking forward to increase that in the municipal side as well by building municipal housing for the talents and specialties that we need to house. Mainly, for example, teachers that would like to come to Vilnius, and we would like to provide them with subsidized municipal housing. Some more facts. about Vilnius, we are very well connected, and we have a greater Vilnius area that is using the services of Vilnius every day. We're very green, and we are proud about that, and we really want to keep it that way. So when talking about trees or parks or forests within the city, we're really looking to preserve that, and we're really thinking that getting to know what the community thinks on that matter and that issue is really important. And also, yeah, so the best and the most important topic for us is rebooting education. And rebooting education is consists of short-term goals of building new schools that are mainly financed by the city's budget, but also looking to create new projects, create new programs for reconstruction and renovation. We are spending 20 million a year and for school repairs. We would like to package that for a 20 or 30-year term and to rebuild them and to outsource the operations of the school support and performance to the private sector. This is a project that we are now initiating, and we're looking into different ways of how to structure and finance it. But basically, either we do it all at once, or we will continue to support the deteriorating infrastructure that we already have. This is something that's not only about infrastructure, because getting the minds of the schoolmasters from fixing broken things to educating is the key to supporting and creating a better education system that is more focused on what the students need and not what the broken pipes or doors or the heating system needs. We have a highlight new school in one of the districts that is coming up quite quickly, and we had international competition for the project, and we're now working with the architects to devise a new kind of school that could be replicated elsewhere in Vilnius, but first of all will be done in Pilaitė. And we are going to later implement them and construct in a way that would be financed by the private sector as well, in the PPP way, more or less like the Balsiai school that was built some years ago. We are considering a teachers' endowment fund which would finance an increase of salaries for the teachers. And we think that that could be doable or manageable or structured in any way, though it's not infrastructure. And we think that we need to give a lot to communities, and we need to involve even children in infrastructure planning. We are aspiring to be UNESCO, that other international organization. So we need to, we're aspiring to be a children-friendly city, and this means that we are involving children in infrastructure planning. And Pilaitė school, for example, will be first of the projects that will be built like that. So actual children, students of the school will be asked about what they like in the school, how they are planning their day, and how they would like to be built. That is something that is really interesting for me, because we're building the city not for us, but basically for the users that will be there tomorrow. And that is something that really see a breakthrough in last year. We are planting a lot of trees, and that is initiatives mainly by the municipality, but we would like to involve private developers as well. So we're asking and doing a lot to encourage them to support the city in keeping its green forests and areas. And for that, and for a lot of other reasons, we devised a new master plan, which is a smarter city planning initiative, and it will it will have a interconnected network for the city's green spaces that we will need to fulfill. Currently, it's not very well connected. We are looking to regenerate a lot of city districts, mainly by creating municipal housing and influencing and working together with realtors and governmental companies to redevelop some of the transportation areas like the Station District, the Vilnius Connect District. We are also looking forward to convert a territory that was a former prison. It was fully closed this year as a prison, and now will be open to the society, and we will have 8 hectares of land that has been returned to the city and will be a boost to the city center as well. The new master plan is a huge step in territory planning. Basically, we have planned the city in great detail, and we reduced the amount of the swamp that was in the territory planning. There was a huge gray area, a lot of disputes, a lot of billable hours for the lawyers to clear a lot of disputes about that, but the new and more clear, more transparent rules will be encouraging for new developments. And though this is just the first step, the next huge step will be implementing way bigger infrastructure taxes on the new developments. Currently, developers are paying around 4 euros per square meter, and that's a really low amount compared to any other city around. We need to redevelop that and tax this part of development much more. This is for us to keep up with the growing infrastructure demand, because if a developer is building, let's say, 50,000 square meters of housing in one area, he expects the municipality to cover for kindergarten, schools, roads, and whatever else. And we just cannot sustain this in any way by our own financing options that we have from the national government. We are investing a lot in the sports infrastructure, and this first part is really okay. It's difficult for me to say, because if a CEO of Vilnius would be standing here in 1984, he would be talking about that same project, because basically it was devised in that time, and we decided to build the national stadium. And that has not been done ever since until now. And we are thinking now that the project we have on hand, which is structured in a PPP way, which constructs about 25 sports objects and the stadium, could be reasonable and could solve this problem by mitigating all of the risks that are involved, construction risks, political risks, and so on. This multifunctional center would be one of the biggest PPP projects in Lithuania that would be completed, and the biggest one that Vilnius had. And we expect to finish this this year. So if that's happening, then we have much more to talk about next year. We are opening a new Olympic-sized swimming pool, and we're building, initiating builds for 2 more smaller pools, and we are going to complete a lot of infrastructure for sports until 2023. We need a way to operate them all, and we are thinking of outsourcing this to the private sector, because the risks and the challenges of all this infrastructure management are not basically very, the public sector is not that capable of doing it. Mobility is something that we see as a service, as a wholesome service for all the city citizens. We proud ourselves of having a very small time compared to other cities that it takes door to door to commute, and this number is great, but it needs to be way increased. We need to take a lot into consideration, especially in city planning and in the city multifunctionality. We don't care about getting as much from A to B, but we care about door to door, meaning that we think about service delivery in a much broader perspective. It doesn't suffice to say that we have a bus that runs from one stop to another in a relevantly small amount of time if you can get to where you're going using it. You can use 35 mobility options in Vilnius, and that is something as a big number for a small city. And we offer a lot of those mobility options in a very good quality or size. Of course, they vary. We have recently bought 300 new vehicles for the public transportation. So it's now more or less redone, the whole park. And we are especially thinking that the city needs to be walkable, cyclable, and then connected by using public transportation. We really redone this in a sustainable way. We built a lot of new bicycle lanes, and a lot of new services entered the city as mobility providers for scooters and cars that can be rented and shared. We have the biggest amount of car-sharing cars per capita in the whole world, and that is something that we're also quite proud of. So this smooth transportation system, of course, is based on walkability, cycling, and public transportation, but we are also constructing new roads, and we are considering three biggest projects here. Of course, there are plenty of smaller ones, and we are also thinking of introducing new type of public transportation, which might be a tram, might be a bus, a rapid transit system. It could be a lot of different things. We are now just into studying what the solution could be best. We are now also thinking about drone delivery, which will start next year in Vilnius. And we are creating a drone road network, which will be regulated by the city. Drone operators for various different services need this infrastructure and need regulations to know the clear rules of the usage, and the city is happy to help in regulating it. And we also have some small air force for enforcing the rules, and that will be an interesting solution to see. Currently, we're now just devising the legislation and the actual drone paths for the pilot projects. But that would be a new type of infrastructure that's developed because it's basically air. And last but not least, cultural development has been a key in attracting a lot of tourists to Vilnius. Maybe you heard last year was the series from HBO Chernobyl that was filmed in Vilnius. This is something that's really great because tourists from the filming sector, the filming industry, are the best tourists to have in a city. And the industry is developing quite a lot in a quite a fascinating way. For this, we're expanding and building another film studio by the one that's near Vilnius, and we're also looking to create the Congress Center, which is co-owned by the municipality and the government, and it will be opened in 2022. And the National Concert Hall, the international tender for that, for the project has just completed, and we're now doing the planning, and we will try to construct it by 2023. Though it will be a huge challenge, so we're looking for different ways to structure and finance these contracts. So this was a very brief overview of what we have and what we have our minds on in Vilnius city. There are a lot of smaller projects, intersections, crossings, turnpikes, and bridges for pedestrians that we're considering building, but please feel free to ask me about that later today.
Thank you. And we have a question as well from the audience. Can we see that? So, do you have any plans for the additional PPPs? The first one above.
So, the biggest PPP now being completed is the stadium one. Next one will be the school renovation project. That will be quite big, and also constructing of the few schools that we're now devising. So it's if one school has a total budget of 15 million, so we're thinking of building 4 more. You can do the math. Transportation, the Northern Street project, for example, is about 80 million in capex, and that is something of the size. We also are financing quite a lot with EU funds and budget funds, but of course the EU funds will run out soon, and then we will look into more options about to do that. We are also discussing of a new Balsei school that could be built quite soon, maybe even next year.
Okay, and let's take another one, the one about what needs to be done in Vilnius or other Baltic capital cities to make top cities to live index, and Vienna is #1 there. So
yeah, we actually saw this index and we are looking into it. We know different ways to manipulate indexes, and Vienna is not in any terms a very livable city. But as we currently found out, walkability and having your workplace close to your home in walking distance is something that you might find in a city that could be very livable. So that is something we're aspiring to do. And there is a lot of construction now being done, for example, in Šnipiškės district, which is nearby the central business district. It's mostly residential housing that's being built there, and it could really rejuvenate the central business district, which is empty after working hours. So I think this could be a huge bump into that direction, but we're still looking forward to clearing out the index that is being mentioned here.
Okay, thank you, Povilas.